Zelophehad came to the entrance of the tabernacle to give a petition to Moses, Eleazar the priest, the tribal leaders, and others who were there. The names of these women were Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They were members of the half-tribe of Manasseh, a son of Joseph. Their ancestor was Machir, son of Manasseh. Manasseh's son Gilead was their great-grandfather. His son Hefer was their grandfather, and his son Zelophehad was their father. Our father died in the wilderness, they said. He was not one of those who perished in Korah's revolt against the Lord. It was a natural death, but he had no sons. Why should the name of our father disappear just because he had no son? We feel that we should be given property along with our father's brothers. So Moses brought their case before the Lord. And the Lord replied to Moses, the daughters of Zelophehad are correct. Give them land along with their uncles. Give them the property that would have been given to their father if he had lived. Moreover, this is a general law among you, that if a man dies and he has no sons, then his inheritance shall be passed on to his daughters. And if he has no daughter, it shall belong to his brothers. And if he has no brother, then it shall go to his uncles. But if he have no uncles, then it shall go to the nearest relative. One day the Lord said to Moses, go up into Mount Abiram and look across the river to the land I've given to the people of Israel. After you've seen it, you shall die, as Aaron your brother did. For you rebelled against my instructions in the wilderness of Zin, when the people of Israel rebelled. You did not glorify me before them by following the instructions to water to come out of the rock. That doesn't make sense. Let's read that again. After you've seen it, you shall die, as Aaron your brother did. For you rebelled against my instructions in the wilderness of Zin. When the people of Israel rebelled, you did not glorify me before them by following my instructions to order water to come out of the rock. He was referring to the incident of the waters of Meribah, place of strife in Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin. Then Moses said to the Lord, O Jehovah, the God of spirits of all mankind, before I'm taken away, please appoint a new leader for the people, a man who will lead them into battle and care for them, so that the people of the Lord will be not as a sheep without a shepherd. The Lord replied, go get Joshua, son of Nun, who has the Spirit in him, and take him to Eleazar the priest, and as all the people watch, charge him with the responsibility of leading the people. Publicly give him your authority so that all the people of Israel will obey him. He shall be the one to consult with Eleazar the priest in order to get directions from the Lord. The Lord will speak to Eleazar through the use of Urim, and Eleazar will pass on these instructions to Joshua and the people. In this way, the Lord will continue to give them guidance. So Moses did as Jehovah commanded and took Joshua to Eleazar the priest, and as the people watched, Moses laid his hands upon him and dedicated him to his responsibilities as the Lord had commanded. Numbers 28:1. The Lord gave Moses these instructions to give to the people of Israel. The offering which you burn on the altar for me are my food and are pleasure to me. So see to it that they are brought regularly and are offered as I instructed you. When you make offerings by fire, you shall use yearling male lambs each without defect. 2 of them shall be offered each day as a regular burnt offering. 1 lamb shall be sacrificed in the morning, the other in the evening. With them shall be offered a grain offering of 3 quarts of finely ground flour mixed with 3 pints of oil. This is the burnt offering ordained at Mount Sinai to be regularly offered as a fragrant odor, an offering made by fire to the Lord. Along with it shall be the drink offering, consisting of 3 pints of strong wine with each lamb, poured out in strong wine. I see now. Poured out in the holy place before the Lord. Offer the second lamb in the evening with the same grain offering and drink offering. It too is a fragrant odor to the Lord, an offering made by fire. On the Sabbath day, sacrifice 2 yearling male lambs, both without defect, in addition to the regular offerings. They are to be accompanied by a grain offering of 6 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil and the usual drink offering. Also on the first day of each month, there should be an extra burnt offering to the Lord of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male yearling lambs, all without defect. Accompanying them with 9 quarts of finely ground flour mixed with oil as a grain offering with each bull, and 6 quarts of finely ground flour mixed with oil as a grain offering for the ram. And for each lamb, 3 quarts of finely ground flour mixed with oil for a grain offering. This burnt offering shall be presented by fire and will please the Lord very much. Along with each sacrifice shall be a drink offering, 6 pints of wine with each bull, 4 pints of ram, and 3 pints for a lamb. This then will be the burnt offering for each month throughout the year. Also on the first day of each month, you shall offer 1 male goat for a sin offering to the Lord. This is in addition to the regular daily burnt offerings and its drink offering. On April 1st, you shall celebrate the Passover, when the death angel passed over the oldest sons of the Israelites in Egypt, leaving them unharmed. On the following day, a great joyous 7-day festival will begin, but no leavened bread shall be served. On the first day of the festival, all the people shall be called together before the Lord. No hard work shall be done on that day. You shall offer as burnt sacrifices to the Lord 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 yearling male lambs, all without defect. With each bull there shall be a grain offering of 9 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil, and with the ram there shall be 6 quarts, and with each of the 7 lambs there shall be 3 quarts of fine flour. You must also offer a male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for yourselves. These offerings shall be in addition to the usual daily sacrifices. The same sacrifice shall be offered on each of the 7 days of the feast. They will be very pleasant to the Lord. On the 7th day there shall again be a holy and solemn assembly of all the people, and during that day you may do no hard work. On the first day of the harvest festival, all the people must come before the Lord for a special solemn assembly to celebrate the new harvest. On that day you are to present the first of the new crop of grain as a grain offering to the Lord. There shall be no regular work done. There is to be no regular work by anyone. Let's read that again. On that day you are to present the first of the new crop of grain as a grain offering to the Lord. There is to be no regular work by anyone on that day. A special burnt offering, very pleasant to the Lord, shall be offered that day. It shall consist of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 yearling male lambs. These shall be accompanied by your grain offerings of 9 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil with each bull, 6 quarts with the ram, and 3 quarts with each of the 7 lambs. Also offer 1 male goat to make atonement for yourselves. These special offerings are in addition to the regular daily burnt offerings and grain offerings and drink offerings. Make sure that the animals you sacrifice are without defect. Numbers chapter 29. The festival of trumpets shall be celebrated on the 15th day of September each year. There shall be a solemn assembly of all the people of that day, and no hard work may be done. On that day you shall offer a burnt sacrifice consisting of 1 young bull, 1 ram, and 7 yearling male lambs, all without defect. These are sacrifices which the Lord will appreciate and enjoy. A grain offering of 9 quarts of fine flour mingled with oil shall be offered with the bull, 6 quarts with the ram, and 3 quarts with each of the 7 lambs. In addition, there shall be a male goat sacrificed as a sin offering to make atonement for you. These special sacrifices are in addition to the regular monthly burnt offering for that day, and also in addition to the regular daily burnt sacrifices which are to be offered with the respective grain offerings and drink offerings as specified by the ordinances governing them. 10 days later, another convocation of all the people shall be held. This will be a day of solemn humility before the Lord, and no work of any kind may be done. On that day you shall offer a burnt sacrifice to the Lord. It will be very pleasant to him, of 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 yearling male lambs, each without defect, and their accompanying grain offerings, 9 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil to be offered with the bull, 6 with the ram, and 3 with each of the 7 lambs. You are also to sacrifice 1 male goat for a sin offering. This is in addition to the sin offering of the Day of Atonement offered annually on that day, and in addition to the regular burnt sacrifices, grain offerings, and drink offerings. 5 days later there shall be yet another assembly of the people, and on that day no hard work shall be done. It is the beginning of the 7-day festival before the Lord. Your burnt sacrifice that day will give much pleasure to the Lord. Shall be 13 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, accompanied by the usual grain offerings, 9 quarts of fine flour mingled with oil for each of the 13 young bulls, 6 quarts for each of the 2 rams, and 3 quarts for each of the 14 lambs. There must also be a male goat sacrifice for a sin offering, in addition to the regular daily burnt sacrifice, with it accompanying grain offerings and drink offerings. On the 2nd day of the 7-day festival, you shall sacrifice 12 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, accompanied by the usual grain offerings and drink offerings. And also, in addition to the regular daily burnt sacrifice, you are to sacrifice a male goat with its accompanying grain offering and drink offering for a sin offering. On the 3rd day of the festival, offer 11 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, and the usual grain offering and drink offering with each offering. And in addition to the regular daily burnt sacrifices, sacrifice a male goat for a sin offering with its accompanying grain offering and drink offering. On the 4th day of the festival, you are to sacrifice 10 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, each with its accompanying grain offering and drink offering. Also, a male goat as a sin offering, along with the usual grain and drink offerings, in addition to the regular daily sacrifices. Got it. On the 5th day of the month, On the 5th day of the festival, sacrifice 9 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, accompanied by the usual grain offerings and drink offerings. Also sacrifice a male goat with the usual grain and drink offerings as an especial sin offering, in addition to the usual daily sacrifices. On the 6th day of the festival, you must sacrifice 8 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, along with their usual grain and drink offerings. In addition to the usual daily sacrifices, sacrifice a male goat and the usual grain and drink offerings as a sin offering. On the 7th day of the festival, sacrifice 7 young bulls, 2 rams, and 14 male yearling lambs, each without defect, each with its customary grain and drink offerings. Also sacrifice an extra sin offering of 1 male goat with the usual grain and drink offerings, in addition to the regular daily sacrifices. On the 8th day, summon the people to another solemn assembly. You must do no hard work that day. Sacrifice a burnt offering. They are very pleasant to the Lord, of 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 male yearling lambs, each without defect, and the customary grain and drink offerings. Sacrifice also 1 male goat with the usual grain and drink offerings for a sin offering, in addition to the regular daily sacrifices. These offerings are compulsory at the times of your annual feast, and are in addition to the sacrifices and offerings you present in connection with vows, or as freewill offerings, burnt offerings, grain offerings, drink offerings, or peace offerings. So Moses gave all these instructions to the people of Israel. Numbers chapter 30. Now Moses summoned the leaders of the tribes of Israel, and told them, the Lord has commanded that when anyone makes a promise to the Lord, either do something or to quit doing something, that vow must not be broken. The person making the vow must do exactly as he has promised. If a woman promises to the Lord to do or not do something, and she is still a girl at home in her father's home, and her father hears that she has made a vow with penalties but says nothing, then her vow shall stand. But if her father refuses to let her make the vow, or feels that the penalties she has agreed to are too harsh, then her promise will automatically become invalid. Her father must state his disagreement on the first day he hears about it, and then Jehovah will forgive her because her father would not let her do it. If she takes a vow or makes a foolish pledge and later marries, and her husband learns of her vow and says nothing on the day he hears of it, her vow shall stand. But if her husband refuses to accept her vow or foolish pledge, his disagreement makes it void, and Jehovah will forgive her. But if the woman is a widow or is divorced, she must fulfill her vow. If she is married and living in her husband's home when she makes the vow, and her husband hears of it and does nothing, the vow shall stand. But if he refuses to allow it on the first day he hears it, her vow is void, and Jehovah will forgive her. So her husband may either confirm or nullify her vow. But if she says nothing for a day, then he has already agreed to it. But if he says nothing for a day, then he has already agreed to it. If he waits more than a day and then refuses to permit the vow, whatever penalties to which he agreed shall come upon him. He shall be responsible. These then are the commandments the Lord gave Moses concerning relationships between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter who is living at home. Numbers chapter 31. Then the Lord said to Moses, take vengeance on the Midianites for leading you into idolatry, and then you must die. Moses said to the people, some of you must take arms to wage Jehovah's war against Midian. Conscript 1,000 men from each tribe. So this was done out of the many thousands of Israel. 12,000 armed men were sent to battle by Moses. Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, led them into battle, accompanied by the ark with trumpets blaring. And every man of Midian was killed. Among those killed were all 5 of the Midianite kings, Evi, Rechem, Zu, Hur, Reba. Balaam, the son of Beor, was also killed. Then Balaam was killed? Wow. Then the Israeli army took as captives all of the women and children, and seized the cattle and flocks and a lot of miscellaneous booty. All the cities, towns, and villages of Midian were then burned. The captives and other war loot were brought to Moses and Eleazar the priest, and to the rest of the people of Israel were camped on the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River across from Jericho. Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the leaders of the people went out to meet the victorious army. But Moses was very angry with the army officers and battalion leaders. Why have you let all the women live? He demanded. These are the very ones who just followed Balaam's advice and caused the people of Israel to worship idols on Mount Peor. And they are the cause of the plague that destroyed us. Now kill all the boys and all the women who had sexual intercourse. Only the little girls may live. You may keep them for yourselves. What? Oh, that's terrible. 18. Only the little girls may live, and you may keep them for yourselves. Jesus. Now stay outside the camp for 7 days, all of you who have killed anyone or touched a dead body. Then purify yourselves and your captives on the 3rd and 7th days. Remember also to purify all your garments and everything made of leather, goat's hair, or wood. Then Eleazar said to the men who were in the battle, this is the commandment Jehovah has given Moses. Anything that will stand heat, such as gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, or lead, shall be passed through the fire in order to be made ceremonially pure. It must be further purified with the purification water. But anything that won't stand heat shall be purified by water alone. On the 7th day you must wash your clothes and be purified, and then you may come back into the camp. And the Lord said to Moses, you and Eleazar the priest and the leaders of the tribes are to make a list of all the loot, including the people and the animals. Then divide it into 2 parts. Half of it is for the men who are in the battle, and the other half is to be given to the people of Israel. But first, the Lord gets a share of all the captives, oxen, donkeys, and flocks kept by the army. His share is the one out of every 500. Give this share to Eleazar the priest to be presented to the Lord by the gesture of waving before the altar. Also levy a 2% tribute of all the captives, flocks, and cattle that are given to the people of Israel. Present this to the Levites in charge of the tabernacle, for it is the Lord's portion. So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded. The total booty, besides the jewelry, clothing, etc., which the soldiers kept for themselves, was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 oxen, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 young girls. So the half given to the army totaled 337,500 sheep, of which 675 were given to the Lord, 36,000 oxen, of which 72 were given to the Lord, 30,500 donkeys, of which 61 were given to the Lord, 16,000 girls, of whom 32 went to the Levites. All of the Lord's portion was given to Eleazar the priest as the Lord had directed Moses. The half of the booty assigned to the people of Israel, Moses had separated it from the half belonging to the warriors, amounted to 337,500 sheep, 36,000 oxen, and 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 girls. In accordance with the Lord's direction, Moses gave 2% of these to the Levites. Then the officers and battalion leaders came to Moses and said, we have accounted for all the men who went out to battle, and not one of us is missing. So we have brought a special thank offering to the Lord from our loot: gold jewelry, bracelets, anklets, rings, earrings, and necklaces. This is to make atonement for our souls before the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest received the special offering from the captains and battalion leaders and company commanders, and found its total value to be $300,000. The soldiers had also kept personal loot for themselves. The offering was taken into the tabernacle and kept before the Lord as a memorial of the people of Israel. Numbers chapter 32. When Israel arrived in the land of Jason and Gilead, the tribes of Reuben and Gad, who had large flocks of sheep, noticed what wonderful sheep country it was. They came to Moses and Eleazar the priest and the other tribal leaders and said, the Lord had used Israel to destroy the population of this whole countryside: Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eliah, Saban, Nebo, and Beon. And it's all wonderful sheep country, ideal for flocks. Please let us have this land as our portion instead of the land on the other side of the Jordan River. You mean you want to sit here while your brothers go across and do all the fighting? Moses demanded. Are you trying to discourage the rest of the people from going across to the land that the Lord has given them? This is the same kind of thing your fathers did. I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. But when they had finished the survey and returned from the valley of Eshcol, they discouraged the people from going into the promised land. And the Lord's anger was hot against them. And he swore that all of those who had rescued from Egypt, no one over 20 years age of 20 years age would ever see the land he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for they had refused to do what he wanted them to do. The only exceptions were Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun, for they wholeheartedly followed the Lord and urged the people to go into the promised land. The Lord made us wander back and forth in the wilderness for 40 years until all that evil generation died. But here you are, a brood of sinners doing exactly the same thing, only there are more of you. So Jehovah's anger against Israel will be even fiercer this time. If you turn away from God like this, he will make the people stay even longer in the wilderness, and you will be responsible for his people and bring disaster to this entire nation. You'll be responsible for destroying his people. Not at all, they exclaimed. We will build sheepfolds for our flocks and cities for our little ones, but we ourselves will go over armed ahead of the rest of the people of Israel until we have brought them back safely to their inheritance. But first, we will need to build walled cities here for our families to keep them safe from attack from the local inhabitants. We will not settle down here until all the people of Israel have received their inheritance. We don't want land on the other side of the Jordan. We would rather have it on this side, on the east. Then Moses said, all right, if you will do what you have said and arm yourselves for Jehovah's war and keep your troops across the Jordan until the Lord has driven out his enemies, then when the land is finally subdued before the Lord, you may return. Then you will have discharged your duty to the Lord and to the rest of the people of Israel. And the land on the eastern side shall be your possession from the Lord. But if you don't do as you have said, then you will have sinned against the Lord, and you may be sure your sin will catch up with you. Go ahead and build cities for your families and sheepfolds for your sheep. Do all you have said. We will follow your instructions exactly, the people of Gad and Reuben replied. Our children, wives, flocks, and cattle shall stay here in the cities of Gilead, but all of us who are conspired will go over to battle for the Lord, just as you said. So Moses gave his approval by saying to Eleazar, Joshua, and the tribal leaders of Israel, if all the men of the tribes of Gad and Reuben who have conscripted for the Lord's battles go with you over the Jordan, then when the land is conquered, you must give them the land of Gilead. But if you refuse, they must accept land among the rest of you in the land of Canaan. Throat is dry. Thank God. The tribes of Gad and Reuben said, again, as the Lord has commanded, so we will do. We will follow the Lord fully armed into Canaan, but our own land shall be here on this side of the Jordan. So Moses assigned the territory of King Sihon of the Amorites and King Og of Bashan, all the land and cities to the tribes of Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph. The people of Gad built these cities, Dibon, Tara, Oreh, Arath, Shophan, Jazer, Jotbahiah, Beth Nimrah, Beth Haran. They were all fortified cities with sheepfolds. The children of Reuben built the following cities: Heshbon, Eliah, Kerethium, Nebo, Balmeon, Sibmah. The Israelites later changed the name of these cities that they had conquered and rebuilt. Then the clan of Mechor, the tribe of Manasseh, went to Gilead and conquered it, and drove out the Amorites who were living there. So Moses gave Gilead to the Marconites, and they lived there. The men of Jair, another tribe of Manasseh, occupied many of the towns in Gilead and changed the name of their area to Havrath Jair. Meanwhile, a man named Naboth led an army to Kenah and surrounding villages and occupied them, and he called the area Nobah after his own name. Numbers chapter 33. This is the itinerary of the nation of Israel from the time of Moses and Aaron led them out of Egypt. Moses had written down their movements as the Lord had instructed them. They left the cities of Ramses, Egypt, on the first day of April, the day after the night of Passover. They left proudly, hurried along by the Egyptians who were burying all their eldest sons killed by the Lord the night before. The Lord had certainly defeated all the gods of Egypt that night. After leaving Ramses, they stayed in Succoth, Etham, at the edge of the wilderness, and Pi-haroth near Baal-zephon, where they camped at the foot of Mount Migdol. From there, they went through the middle of the Red Sea and on for 3 days into the wilderness of Etham, camping at Marah. Leaving Marah, they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. They stayed there for quite a long time. Leaving Elim, they camped beside the Red Sea and then in the wilderness of Sin. Next was Daphah, and then Alush, and then on to Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. From Rephidim, they went to the wilderness of Sinai. From the wilderness of Sinai to Kibroth Hattaavah. Here we go. From Kibroth Hattaavah to Hazeroth, from Hazeroth to Rithmah, from Rithmah to Rimmon Perez, from Rimmon Perez to Libnah, from Libnah to Rissah, from Rissah to Kilaloth, from Kilaloth to Mount Shepher, from Mount Shepher to Haradah, from Haradah to Makheloth, from Makheloth to Tahath, from Tahath to Terah, from Terah to Miktah, from Miktah to Hasamon, from Hasamon to Maratha, to Masrah to Beni Jacham, Beni Jacham to Har Haggadad, from Har Haggadad to Jotbatha, from Jotbatha to Abrana, from Abrana to Ezion Geber, from Ezion Geber to Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin, from Kadesh to Mount Hor at the edge of the land of Edom. All right, we got it. While they were at the foot of Mount Hor, Aaron the priest was directed by the Lord to go up into the mountain, and there he died. This occurred during the 40th year after the people of Israel had left Egypt. The date of his death was July 15th, when he was 123 years old. It was then that the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negeb in the land of Canaan, heard that the people of Israel were approaching his land. After dealing with him, the Israelis journeyed from Mount Hor and camped in Zalmonah, and then to Ponan and at Albath, then Ayat Baram at the border of Moab. From there they went to Digbon-Gad, and then to Alman-Diblathayim, and on the mountains of Abiram near Mount Nebo, and finally to the plains of Moab beside the river Jordan opposite Jericho. While in that area they camped at various places along the Jordan River at Beth-Shemesh as far as Abel-Shittim on the plains of Moab. It was while they were camped there that the Lord told Moses to tell the people of Israel, when you pass across the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, you must drive out all the people living there and destroy all their idols, their carved stones, molten images, and the open-air sanctuaries in the hills where they worship their idols. I have given the land to you. Take it and live there. You will be given land in proportion to the size of your tribes. The larger sections of lands will be divided by lot among the larger tribes, and the smaller sections will be allotted to the smaller tribes. But if you refuse to drive out the people living there, those who remain will be as cinders in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and I will destroy you as I had planned to destroy them. Numbers chapter 34. The Lord told Moses to tell the people of Israel, when you come into the land of Canaan, I'm giving you the entire land as your homeland. The southern portion of the country will be in the wilderness of Zin along the edge of Edom. The southernmost boundary will begin at the Dead Sea and continue south past Scorpion Pass in the direction of Zin. Its southernmost point will be Kadesh Barnea, from which will go to Hazradar and to Asmon. From Asmon, the boundary will follow the brook of Egypt down to the Mediterranean Sea. The western boundary will be the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. Your northern border will begin at the Mediterranean Sea and will proceed eastward to Mount Hor, then to Leba Hamath, and on through Zihad and Ziphron and to Hezrah Enan. The eastern border will be from Hazar Enan south to Shepham, then on to Riblah at the east side of Ain. From there it will make a large half circle, first going south and westward until it touches the southernmost tip of the Sea of Galilee, and then along the Jordan River ending at the Dead Sea. This is the territory you are to apportion among yourselves by lot, Moses said. It is to be divided among the 9.5 tribes. The 9.5 tribes, for the tribes of Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh have already been assigned land on the east side of the Jordan opposite Jericho. And the Lord said to Moses, these are the names of the men I have appointed to handle the dividing up of the land. Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and one leader from each tribe is listed below, the tribe and its leader. Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh. Simeon, Shemuel son of Ammihud. Benjamin, Eliad son of Chislon. Dan, Buki son of Jogli. Manasseh, Haniel son of Ephod. Ephraim, Chemiel son of Shiphthan. Zebulun, Elizaphan son of Arnot. Issachar, Paltiel son of Azan. Asher, Ahiyab son of Helmai. Naphtali, Peduliah son of Enaneh. These are the names of the men I have appointed to oversee the dividing of the land among the tribes. Numbers chapter 35, verse 1. While Israel was camped beside the Jordan on the plains of Moab opposite Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, instruct the people of Israel to give to the Levites as their inheritance certain cities and surrounding pasture lands. These cities are for their homes and surrounding lands for their cattle, flocks, and other livestock. Their gardens and vineyards shall extend 1,500 feet from the city wall in each direction, with an additional 1,500 feet beyond that for pasture land. You shall give the Levites the 6 cities of refuge, where a person who has accidentally killed someone can run and be saved. 42 other cities beside. In all there shall be 48 cities with the surrounding pasture land given to the Levites. These cities shall be in various parts of the nation. The larger tribes with many cities will give several to the Levites, with the smaller tribes will give fewer. And the Lord said to Moses, tell the people that when they arrive in the land, cities of refuge shall be designated to anyone to flee into if he has killed someone accidentally. These cities will be placed of protection from the dead man's relatives who want to avenge his death. For the slayer must not be killed unless a fair trial establishes his guilt. 3 of these 6 cities of refuge shall be located in the land of Canaan, and 3 on the east side of the Jordan River. These are not only for the protection of Israelites, but also for foreigners and travelers. But if someone is struck and killed by a piece of iron, it must be presumed to be murder, and the murderer must be executed. Or if the slain man was struck down with a large stone, it is murder, and the murderer shall die. The same is true as if he is killed with a wooden weapon. The avenger of his death shall be killed. The avenger of his death shall personally kill the murderer when he meets him. So if anyone kills another out of hatred by throwing something at him or ambushing him or angrily striking him with the fist so that he dies, he is a murderer, and the murderer shall be executed by the avenger. But if it's an accident, a case in which something is thrown unintentionally or which a stone is thrown without anger, without realizing it will hit anyone, and without wanting to harm an enemy, yet the man dies, then the people shall judge whether or not it was an accident or whether or not to hand over the killer to the avenger of the dead man. If it is decided that it was accidental, then the people shall save the killer from the avenger. The killer shall be permitted to stay in the city of refuge, that he must live there until the death of the high priest. If the slayer leaves the city and the avenger finds him outside and kills him, it is not murder, for the man should have stayed inside the city until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the man may return to his own land and home. These are the permanent laws for all Israel from generation to generation. All murderers must be executed, but only if there be more than one witness. No man shall die with only one person testifying against him. Whenever anyone is judged guilty of murder, he must die. No ransom may be accepted for him, nor may a payment be accepted from a refugee in a city of refuge, permitting him to return to his home before the death of the high priest. In this way the land will not be polluted. For murder pollutes the land, and no atonement can be made for murder except by the execution of the murderer. You shall not defile the land where you're going to live, for I, Jehovah, will be living there. Numbers chapter 36, verse 1. Then the heads of the subclan of Gilead, of the clan of Machir, of the tribe of Manasseh, one of the sons of Joseph, came to Moses and the leaders with a petition. The Lord instructed you to divide the land by lot among the people of Israel, they reminded Moses, and to give the inheritance of our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. But if they marry into another tribe, their land will go with them to the tribe into which they marry. In this way, the total area of the tribe will be reduced and will not be returned at the year of Jubilee. Then Moses replied publicly, give them these instructions from the Lord. The men of the tribe of Joseph have a proper complaint. This is what the Lord has further commanded concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. Let them be married to anyone they like, so as long as it is within their own tribe. In this way, none of the land of the tribe will be shifted from any other tribe, for the inheritance of every tribe is to remain permanently as it was first allotted. The girls throughout the tribes of Israel who are heiresses must marry within their own tribe, so that their land won't leave the tribe. In this way, no inheritance shall move from one tribe to another. The daughters of Zelophehad did as the Lord commanded Moses. These girls, Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, were married to men in their own tribes of Manasseh, sons of Joseph, so their inheritance remained in their tribe. These are the commandments and ordinances that the Lord gave to the people of Israel through Moses while they were encamped on the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River across Jericho. This is the word of the Lord.